Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Hot Topics podcast. I am your host, Alexander Rivera, and it is my honor to be with you guys this evening. We have a action-packed show, so be sure to tune in. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Hot Topics podcast. I am your host, Alexander Rivera, and it is my honor with being you all this evening. There are outstanding advocates, for equality here, both in our Sunshine State and throughout the entire United States. But I want to bring on this one individual because he is an excellent rock star. He is the president of the Hillsborough County LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. And joining us now from his home in Tampa is Dave Cutler, president of the Hillsborough County LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on it. Rockstar, thank you.
We could all agree on that.
Right.
Okay. So, Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, briefly, I'm born and raised here in the Tampa Bay area. I've been involved in Democratic Party politics since probably the late 90s, early 2000s. And I've served in various leadership positions. Like I said, currently I'm the president of the Hillsborough County LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. Previously, I served as secretary of that same group, and I'm also the former secretary of the Florida LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus. And and I've been helping out in various roles, on volunteering campaigns since about the 2000 election.
Well, we appreciate you being here. So my first question is what do you think equality looks like in the state of Florida?
We haven't, obviously, I don't think we've achieved it yet. We're getting there. Obviously, as we know, marriage equality is legal here in Florida, has been since 2015. But we still, because of the Supreme Court case, which I can't quite remember the exact name of it, last year, where they said that Title IX covers sexual orientation and gender identity. We actually are covered under employment non-discrimination, which is good. But that still needs to be expanded to housing, public accommodations. Basically, we still need the Equality Act, and the federal level Equality Act, or the Competitive Workforce Act here in Florida. I think the Equality Act has a better chance of becoming law quicker, which would help, because then it wouldn't be a patchwork of states. But and I know there's been various attempts or various cities and localities trying to ban conversion therapy for minors, because that is child abuse. I think equality basically means that we could live, in essence, I know I mentioned a lot of laws or a lot of bills in the Supreme Court. Equality is being able to be who we are without fear of retribution of any kind, whether it's in employment, school, applying to schools, again, public accommodations. It's being able to just be who we are without people even, thinking, having a second thought.
That is a great response, I might, say. So, I'm pretty sure you're aware of HB 1475, which bans, transgendered students from performing in school sports. Mm-hmm. And, the minute I found out that it got passed, first off, I was pissed because I have friends that are transgender. And it really, I had no idea about, this bill. None of us were preparing that it would even get passed. But it did pass by, Republican minority. What's the word I'm looking for, Dave? Minority?
By the Republican majority here in Florida?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off because our legislature is run, by Republicans, and we've been working so damn hard. Excuse my French, but we have been working so hard to flip, Florida blue. And the last time we were blue, I think it was when Charlie Crist was governor, if I'm not mistaken, or long before that.
No. So at the gubernatorial level, the last time a Democrat won the governor's race was 1994 with Lawton Childs barely defeating Jeb Bush. Charlie Crist, as we were talking about, congressman from Pinellas County. He actually was a registered Republican up until about 2010. So when he was governor, he was a Republican. Previous to that, of course, he's a recent convert, as it were, and of course, we certainly welcome into the family.
Absolutely, and as we talked about this, for those of you who don't know, I also am what's the word I'm looking for, Dave? Associate member, if you will, of the caucus, and I valued my input on HB 1475, and spoke with Representative Andrew Learned about this bill, and I'm going to ask you the same question, Dave. What was your take on when that bill got passed?
Disappointment, sadness for trans kids, and even though I am cisgender, I still felt like I was, we're all one family. The LGBTQ plus community is all one family, and it felt like my family members were being attacked. And like I said, we had several members of the Florida legislature who stood up and did everything that they could to try to stop it.
Yes,
but like I said, unfortunately, like you said, the legislature is Republican majority, and it's almost, it's what they say goes right now, unfortunately.
And Dave, I have to say, we do have, two openly LGBTQ persons within the Florida House. We have Carlos Guillermo Smith from District 49, and we have Michelle Rayner from District 70. And when I heard that, the way I heard Michelle speak, she said, "Silence is complicity, and your silence will be marked in history." That takes what I think is a brave amount of bravery coming out of a person's mouth, because and most of the majority stayed silent, and then there was this one bill where Representative Randy Fine said, quote, "because we can." Well, and it really hurt my feelings when they were talking about me and our friend Representative Valdez that way. It made me feel as if had I been in that chamber, and if I was in Susan's shoes, I would definitely tell him, "What in the world were you thinking when you said that?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Do you think? Go ahead.
I was saying, you mentioned, of course, Carlos Guillermo Smith. He is an absolute rock star. So is Michelle Rayner. Very proud to be friends with both of them. I was ecstatic, of course, when Michelle made history as the first openly queer woman to be elected any government level in the state of Florida. And we had some other, Omari Hardy from South Florida. He also stood up and spoke out very strongly against that bill as well. And he's actually running, and like a couple of them, he's also running for Congress down in South Florida.
Absolutely. And we also have to give credit also to Anna Escamani, of course.
Always.
Because that woman, let me tell you something, when she's actually the first ever Iranian American ever elected to the Florida legislature. And when I just remember getting a phone call at 12:30 on election night in 2018, and it was from one of my family who actually currently resides in District 47, and they told me, they go, "We finally have a Democrat in the House seat." And I just immediately, looking at my mother, and said, "Did you hear that, Mom? We now have a Democrat for District 47. I've never seen her do a backflip so damn quick in my life, but I was like, "Did you just do a backflip, Mom?" She goes, "Damn right, and I'm proud to do it again."
I can tell you, Anna, I know her in passing, of course. I know Carl's a little bit better because I've had a little bit more interaction with him. But Anna, she did everything right when she ran for office. She already had relationships with her work for Planned Parenthood, and she did and continues to do pretty much everything right to continue to win. I don't even think she had an opponent in last year's race, if I remember correctly. And I know a lot of people
I don't
because
think
of.
she did.
And one thing I love about her is she doesn't call herself an ally for the LGBTQ community. She proudly calls herself an accomplice, and she
Absolutely.
yeah, she's definitely one of the family members, definitely.
She is. And yesterday, when we had National Coming Out Day, National Coming Out Day yesterday, I actually remember coming out to my mom and I was telling her, I was like, "Look, mom, this is my decision. I need your support." She goes, "Absolutely."
Good.
But when I told my friends, they had no idea that I was LGBTQ plus. But the entire time they thought I was straight, and I told them, I was like, "Look, I'm LGBTQ plus," and they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "I'm gay, and I want to live my life," and I basically got a ton of, if I could say fucking, I would, because I got so
You
many
just did.
backlash from it. I mean, excuse my French. Sorry for saying that, YouTube, but you know, I would get ton of backlash, and when you get backlash, you get homophobia, and
Mm.
I I didn't even know that our school had a Young Democrats Club, which and I'm very fortunate enough to become a council member for that group, and I just remember saying to them, I go, "What do you think?" And they go, "Welcome to the family."
Yeah.
That's all we could say is
Um,
"Welcome to the family."
I mean, I was active with the college Democrats back in 1997, 1998, up at Florida State, and without question, they embraced LGBTQ plus members, and coming out in the '90s wasn't. I mean, it was easier than it was in the '80s, but coming out in the mid '90s, I was lucky to have um, complete support from friends and family alike.
Yep. And it feels good when you're living the truth, and what, and I'm very grateful for, I call my boyfriend my husband, because we have the similarities.
Yeah.
One, for pre-registered Democrat, and I told him yesterday, I remember having a conversation with him, and I was like, "Chris, what is your take on me doing a podcast where I'm able to express myself, both non-political and political?" He just put his hand on my lap and he said, "I don't give a damn what you do as long as you don't cheat." But so I was like, I
Oh,
go, "That's the truth." I go, But I've been with him almost 3 years now, and my mom didn't know anything about it until I told her. I was like, "Look, I want you to meet Chris. Get used to him." And she goes, "Get used to him." She goes, "We're not gonna sip at Olive Garden drinking wine samples, my dear." She goes, "That's not how an Italian works."
right.
And so, but we already talked about equality. What do you think an advocate for equality actually looks like in your viewpoint?
I don't think there's one particular look. I've seen people of all genders, all ethnicities, all races, all religions, all creeds be advocates for equality. So um,
Mm.
the most important part is just sharing our values of that everyone should be able to be treated equally and without discrimination. That's what they do. That's what an equality advocate does. There's no one specific look, I don't think.
And Dave, I'm very grateful that I'm a part of my school's Gay Straight Alliance, and um, actually Tuesday was actually election day, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna run for vice president. And before you knew it, I get a phone call at the end of the day. They go, "Hey, we just got done counting the votes, and you won."
Nice. Very
So
cool.
it makes me proud, because when I told Chris, I was like, Chris, you know, and I was like, "Chris, one election, we're gonna celebrate. And so we had to do it at home, of course, because it was school night.
Mhm.
And I just remember sitting at the I was sitting by my kitchen window because I have a view of my backyard through my kitchen window, and I just remember coming into the kitchen, and my niece, who's about 7, came into the room, and she goes, Uncle Alex. I go, yeah. She goes, where do babies come from? I go, we're not gonna have that conversation with you until you're grown.
Right.
But when I think that everybody should have a voice, and I'm very grateful that we actually founded. Well, we didn't found, but my sister gave me a banana.
Oh,
Thank you, Liz. That just makes me special. But yeah,
sisters are awesome.
they are in a way that they're the backbone, and in my family. So if I'm very grateful that we have a wonderful system called Equality Florida here, and but I've never grew up learning what Equality Florida is. What is Equality Florida?
Are you talking about the organization?
Hmm.
They are you know, a nonpartisan. Basically, they're like the caucus, but not partisan. Obviously we're a very partisan organization. Proud Democrats, as you can see, my Democratic donkey over my left shoulder. But they essentially do the same work, just from a nonpartisan perspective. And
What is nonpartisan? What do you mean by that?
they aren't they're not a Democratic or Republican organization, or any of the other minor parties. They're strictly, they are political, but they aren't partisan
So, like an independent.
essentially, yeah. Like I said, there. I wouldn't say that they're an independent. Well, I guess you could say they're an independent group, but it's just nonpartisan. So they will talk to Democrats and Republicans alike.
Hmm.
Whereas, with the caucus, both the local and both the county chapters and the state caucus, we focus on not only educating Democratic elected officials, but we also focus on educating Democratic candidates on our issues, and we also focus on on getting out the LGBTQ plus vote to vote Democratic.
Right. And during this, I believe we're having a great conversation.
Mhm.
It's going wonderfully. And the other day, I just remember getting a very heartwarming phone call from my cousin Lori, and she goes, "Hey, I have something I've been meaning to tell you." I go, "What is it?" And she goes, "I happen to." She actually got a job at an LGBTQ plus summer camp sponsored by the Trevor Project.
Oh, very cool.
And I just remember coming up to her. I remember speaking on the phone with her. I was like, Lori, that's awesome. What is, you know, I actually told her, I was like, yesterday I was going to, have a conversation with Kelly Johnson. And she goes, I know who you're talking about. So we had, like I said, another great conversation. Um, so, what's what I'm looking for? I'm sorry, literally, I thought I printed out my questions, but they were
No problem.
like,
This is a very free flowing conversation is good.
it is because tomorrow we have Commissioner Nikki Freed. So and so I want your take. Who do you want to be governor, Charlie Crist or Nikki Freed?
I'll put my answer this way. I have chosen who I'm going to vote for in the primary, but because I am president of the caucus, and I'm not going to say publicly who I'm supporting. I want both candidates, and anyone else that jumps into the race, to feel like they can come to not only our chapter but the state caucus, and feel like that, and know that they're going to be treated equally as any other candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And so and plus, even if I said, my personal endorsement is this person, that oftentimes can be misconstrued, because I'm president of the chapter, that can be misconstrued misconstrued as the chapter is endorsing this candidate.
Right.
So, like I said, tomorrow we have Commissioner Freed, and hopefully in the next month or two, or maybe three, maybe early next year, January, we'll have Congressman Christ come in and speak to us.
Absolutely. We're going to take a 30-second break, and then we'll come back in.
Sounds good.
If that's all right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Hot Topics podcast. I'm here with Dave Cutler, and we are having a wonderful conversation. You know, I do apologize if you had to take that little break, but, you know, I was like, you know, like I'm still getting used to this program. It's called StreamYard. And, you know, yesterday I was literally, my internet, I think now hates me because, you know, like in the middle of the interview, all of our internet connections just went out. And I had to call Kelly. I was like, Kelly, it's not my fault. I have terrible freaking Wi-Fi. And, you know, if you know already, I'm pretty sure you know that First Lady Casey DeSantis was diagnosed with breast cancer. And, you know, it was a very sad thing. I do send my prayers to her.
Absolutely.
But, you know, one thing I have to say that was very, very wrong of her husband, Governor Ron DeSantis, is when he said, I do not want to hear a blip about COVID. That made me feel as if he is not in support of, you know, COVID. You know, he has been trying to ban mask mandates when, you know, cases of the virus are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have spoken to pretty much everybody, and I told them, I was like, you know, he's, you know, getting rid of, you know, mask mandates. Can you believe this? You know, and my mother, who's actually born and bred in New York, she actually tells me all the time, she refers to him as a withered old Sicilian monkey.
I shouldn't laugh because that's an interesting one, and of course I absolutely agree. You know, I wish the first our first lady of Florida a full and speedy recovery. Absolutely, that's got to be incredibly scary. I was actually reading online in the newspaper that some school districts are, of course, taking Governor DeSantis into court over those mask mandates. He's going to ride that, and hopefully he's going to ride that right out of office.
Right.
Okay. There we go.
I don't know what happened.
That's right. I've actually used this StreamYard before. Last year, when everyone was socially distancing, we weren't doing all the campaigning like close together, and as we usually are, the Biden campaign had people doing a lot of caravans. I'm not sure if you knew about those.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I was involved with two of them. The Pride one in late June of last year, and then I think Labor Day weekend. I think. But yeah, they were the people who were people who were I was interacting with people from the campaign using this, and they would go from different localities around Florida and bring people on, just as you brought me on here.
Absolutely. And, yesterday, this will actually make you laugh. Yesterday, I had somebody tell me, they go, are you from New York? I go, no, my mother is. And they go, where's your dad from? I go, I come from a family of immigrants, okay? My grandmother came from Cuba, and, my grandfather came from Puerto Rico. And before that, I have 2 generations of Spanish immigrants before that. So I'm a 3rd generation Cuban, Puerto Rican American. And they actually found their American dream right here in Hillsborough County. They actually started over in Ybor City, and this will actually bring a lot of people into shock. But both my great grandfather and my grandfather worked in the same exact cigar factory, while my great grandmother and my grandmother both worked in a sweatshop, if you will, like a seamstress.
Hmm.
And so, I'm proud, and a lot of people tell me, they go, if your grandfather is from Cuba, then why do I not see you down in Evil or smoking a cigar? I go, what the hell? Like
Aren't you too young to smoke a cigar?
I am way too young to smoke a cigar.
I
But the
mean,
day I turn 18, I will probably smoke my first cigar.
talk about stereotyping.
I know, but it was hilarious
Uh,
because
and I'm actually only, well, on my father's side. I'm actually I'm second generation American. My father's parents were both actually in. This is why I'm still here, is because they, sacrifices of our ancestors. My father's father came over with a brother of his in 1907, 1906,
wow.
and my father's mother, she came with her family in 1906. Um, they were escaping. Were Jewish. Well, that side of the family is Jewish, so they were escaping the pogroms of Eastern Europe. And
Mm.
had they stayed a generation or two later, likely my family likely perishes in the Holocaust.
And I'm one of my, if you know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw this one thing on Twitter, and he was talking about a specific event that actually sparked the Holocaust. There was a night called Kristallnacht, or in, I believe it's in Austrian, meaning the night of the broken
Can I
glass.
correct your pronunciation a little bit?
Yeah,
It's Kristallnacht.
yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
it was, yes. It meant the night of the broken glass, when Jewish businesses and synagogues were looted. The obviously the glass storefronts were broken into, and storefronts and synagogues were burned to the ground.
Absolutely. And I actually paid a visit to you're from Congregation Bethlehem, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
all.
remember visiting that synagogue, and I just remember walking in and said, wow, and I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was just a normal church, but
Synagogue, but
it was a synagogue. And I have to say, one of my friends invited me to her bat mitzvah,
hmm
and when I went, one of the traditions that they do is that they do, I believe you're sitting in a chair and then they like lift you up, or is that like a Jewish thing?
they
Or is that
they
Greek?
they jokingly call it the Jewish chair dance. But yeah, during, after the bar mitzvah, bar or bat mitzvah, or after a Jewish wedding, they'll sing Hava Nagila, which is, the Israeli folk song that pretty much everyone knows, and they
I
will lift
remember doing that.
and they'll lift up they'll sit the bar bat mitzvah on a chair, or in a wedding, the the spouses in chairs, and they'll lift them up, and they'll hold them up, and they'll parade around with them lifted up, and they'll lift up the chair and lift it down. It's kind of cute.
I have to say though, if I ever were to do that, there is not a chance you guys have lifted me up into the air. I either might go through the ceiling or through a damn drywall. But you know, people scare me all the time. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was actually at Halloween Horror Nights. I went with my two friends, Denise and Alicia, and they took me out, for a normal weekend, and I was able to have fun for the first time in since the pandemic, and we were at Hollow Scream, and up in Orlando, and then we went to Halloween Horror Nights up at Universal, and then we had no idea that we were going to meet Beetlejuice. And my sister, who is about 2 years older than me, she goes, "Watch this." She's dressed in a Beetlejuice costume, and she goes, "Want to see something scary? Let me tell you something. I've never seen Beetlejuice look at my sister like, hey, that's my life." And I'm standing here. I was like, "What's my?" and then we had a Golden Girls night where we dressed up as different Golden Girls. It was like the drag version of the Golden Girls,
That's awesome.
and I was Dorothy, and literally I said,
Ah.
and I just remember crossing my arms and I said, and I take out the garbage at home.
I remember that episode very well.
If you remember where they're on Wake Up Miami, and the announcer said called I believe it was Rant and Dorothy, a lesbian, and I was like, wait, what? I go, yeah, they're straight, obviously, but they were playing, and then they had,
they were
it made
mistaken,
me,
yeah.
It made me kind of judgmental because they called Blanche and Rose a lesbian, but yet they called the other couple interior decorators.
Yeah, I remember, and it was this what they were doing in sex. I remember this episode very well. They were doing a story on women who lived together,
Oh my god!
without men. And I remember they go, Dorothy, lesbian, Blanche, a lesbian, and then I forget what they called the other two women on the panel.
Interior
And
decorator.
then I think it was Blanche turned around and said, "How come they're not lesbians?" And the two ladies said, "We don't like labels."
I remember that very clearly, and that's where my mom calls DeSantis a withered old Sicilian gecko. Is
Which
from
is
Dorothy
something
and
that Sophia would
Salty.
have said. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually remember being called. I actually remember very well. My mother took me when I was very, very young to a performing arts school. It was up in New York, and it was actually where my cousin Desiree got her BFA, her Bachelor's of Fine Arts. It was at Juilliard.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting there, and I just remember crying on the steps of the theater outside. I was like, I have no one to play with, and this woman comes up to me. She goes, "What's wrong, honey?" I go, "Do I know you from somewhere?" She was like this tall woman, about light skin. Excuse me for saying that. She was about light skin. She had jet black hair, and she goes, "Honey, I'm going to my dressing room. Would you like to go in there and help me with my makeup?" She comes out, and literally, the director for the play that she was doing said, "Oh my God, Rosario, you look like." She goes, "You look like one of the dads from Daddy Daycare where they fuck up his hair." And I immediately realized at that point that the woman I spoke to was Rosario Dawson,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my
Oh,
first
wow.
run-in with a celebrity. And then I have been trying, and by the skin of my teeth, Dave, I have been trying so hard to get Mayor Jane Castro on Hot Topics, and every time I try to do so, it's either because she's busy or she's. And I remember calling Anna. I was like, "Hey, Anna, how you doing?" She goes, "Hello." She's just this soft-spoken woman who we all love and adore here in Tampa Bay, and isn't her mother Senator Janet Cruz?
Anna Cruz, yes. Her mother is Senator Cruz, yes.
I didn't even know that until yesterday. I was like, literally, I just remember looking at my dog and I was like, he was like he, literally, if I were to show you my dog, literally, he is sitting right here with a tennis ball in his mouth.
Oh, wow.
So he's smart. He's a German Shepherd, and we didn't know. But when we first got him, we had no idea that he actually was born and trained in Germany.
Oh.
And so he's actually an ex canine, meaning he used to work for Hillsborough County.
Okay.
And I said shopping list. The TikTok where they go eggs, milk, butter, and then they say cocaine. And I remember doing that to my dog. He was like, he just gave me this weirdest look I've never seen on his face.
You're talking, going back to, if I may, the gay LGBTQ plus portrayal and media.
Right.
Golden Girls was, as you know, was a groundbreaking show.
Yes, it was.
And
still is.
Yeah, it still is. And of course, but it's interesting that nowadays, back, when Ellen came out in 1997, eight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
1998. Yeah,
that was a big to do. And nowadays, like a gay character, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, or or however someone identifies character on TV. Oh, okay. And now it's just like they try to people expect to almost it doesn't they don't bat an eye anymore, which is really good.
yeah,
Again, it's society has always been, I find,
messed up.
well, no, society has always been ahead of our laws.
Really.
Like I said, the Equality Act hasn't passed yet, but if you poll, if you poll the average American, or most Americans, they say absolutely, LGBTQ plus people should be protected from employment discrimination. People are like, yeah, they should be able to hold down jobs, not a problem.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it's because we have some stupid legislative rules in the U.S. Senate called the filibuster that has so far kept it from being, which is also why people, and to tie it in, this is why people we need to elect more Democrats,
Yes, we do.
including replacing next year Marco Rubio with whoever our nominee is.
Whether it's Val Demings or I specifically love Val because she has damn good expertise. She's coming from you know she currently serves as a congresswoman, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
And she's a former police chief, and she did you know that she brought down the crime in Orlando when she was chief
Oh yeah,
to
I know a
to
lot of
a
people
very
that
very low rate. I just remember, I also grew up in a cops family as well. My mom's dad, my grandfather was a cop. He served Tampa for over 30 years. Um, I never got to meet him. He passed away in 1995 of colon cancer. And then yesterday, I discovered this little thing in the middle of my throat, and I went to my doctor, and they ran a bunch of tests. They basically told me that I have a a small mass, or the size of a almost like a small ping pong ball on my thyroid.
oh
And
my.
they said, and I said, "What the hell is that?" They go, "It's a mess." I go, "What do you mean it's a mess?" They go, "Well, you have one or two options. One, we could either go in and surgically remove it, or B, it's going to continue to grow and you're going to have cancer from it." And that really terrified the living shit out of me. So
Mhm.
on November 18th, right before Thanksgiving, I'm going under the knife for thyroid surgery. So I'm very worried about that, but I'm hoping for the best. Um, you know, and just like my dog, he has, you know, when he got stung by a bee, he looked like Snoopy, and we literally had to go in and basically, and when the bee bit him, it wasn't a bee, it was a what are those things with the tails on the end that look, I think a hornet.
I don't know.
Well, I'm not a scientist either, so I don't know.
Hmm.
Anyway, the tail had broken off, and it was just like this little thing sticking out of his nose. It was like, and the doctor said when he went to go remove it, it looked as if the tail was telling him to go, fuck himself. But literally, it was like this, sticking outward.
Yeah. So,
But
getting back to Val Demings real quickly. She's an amazing person. She was actually the during the winter 2020 conference, state caucus conference in Orlando. She was one of the keynote speakers, and as you probably remember, she was on the short list for vice president when Joe Biden was our nominee.
oh yeah, I was
And
very aware of that.
there are other candidates, of course, in that race, other Democratic candidates. You know, whether or not they, we'll see how many people, who qualifies. Kind of like over in the governor's race, we'll see who all qualifies. And but regardless of who our nominee is for governor, for any office, because the entire cabinet will be up for election, and state legislature. One thing I would emphasize to your listeners, to whoever's listening, who votes Democratic is make sure you go all the way down the ballot. State legislature, county commission, school board.
Absolutely, because it's important.
They're all. I mean, you're not going to call the president of the United States for a pothole, but you're going to call. You're going to contact your city. As the saying, do you know who Tip O'Neill is?
Tip O'Neill. Hang on, I'm trying to think of the name. You said Tip O'Neill?
Yes. You're going to Google it real quick.
Hang on. Is he he's the former Speaker of the House, right?
From back in the 80s, yes. Back even before when I was a toddler.
Wait, isn't his son a baseball player?
I don't know, but he came up. I believe it was him who came up with the phrase "all politics is local," and that's why I totally emphasize. Always emphasize: make sure you vote all the way on down the ballot. Don't just excuse me. I apologize for that. Don't just go in and vote for Senate or vote for governor or vote for the president and leave. Make sure you do your research. And find out about your Democratic candidates all the way down the ballot.
Absolutely, and I always told my mom, I actually went with her, on election night, right before the polls were about to close. I was like, Mom, I swear to God, if you mark Trump, I swear to God, I will personally dye my hair blonde and literally dress up as a freaking Oompa Loompa and embarrass the hell out of you.
Sorry. I'm now getting the visual of
you. So anyway, and here's the thing, voters, if you're ever watching this, one thing you want to be on the lookout for, because it's very, very sneaky. If you remember, back in the 2001 election, it was a big controversy because they had this thing called the butterfly
2000 election.
Yeah, it was 2000. I meant to say 2001. I was thinking of when Bush was elected, but one thing that I'm very proud of now on the ballots, it actually has their party. Whenever you see DEM, that's a Democrat, and whenever you see REP, it's Republican. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people refer to me as an old soul. Okay, I may be, I'm pretty young, but when I get people calling me old, I just want to put on a grandpa suit and say, "Does this make me look old?"
And you're what, 16?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not that old. I'm not that old. Okay, I believe it or not, my first actual job has been the honor of working with Representative Ana Escamani for People Power for Florida.
Oh, very cool.
And that is an amazing organization, Dave, that you should check out. I was in Dunedin, right 2 weekends ago, and not knowing that my car was going to break down in the middle of a busy highway. And lucky for me, I was right next to an Enterprise rent-a-car. Actually, no, it was an Enterprise buy-a-car, rent-a-car, that type of thing. I was like, how much is it for that? How much is it for that Jeep? They go, we'll give it to you for $1,500. I go, shit, I'll give you my credit card. Just put it on my tab. They actually gave me this beautiful car. It's a 2016 Grand Cherokee Laredo. And let me tell you something. When I got home Sunday night, because I was with my mother, I was like, you're driving, and if we get pulled over, we're going to say you're my sister, that you're visiting for a week.
Great.
And, we're crazy as hell. We may be badasses, but we're crazy.
Yeah.
And I told my sister the other day, I was like, Liz, what do you think about me, interviewing, Dave? Because, every time I bring up, a specific guest, she goes, are you referring to Dave Cutler? I go, why, him from somewhere? She goes, yeah, she goes, I remember being at Pride last year. Did we have Pride last year?
No, we didn't.
We had one this year, I think.
We had one back in May. It was late May of this year, yeah.
Yeah. She goes, I think I remember running into Dave and Ken. I go, stop knowing my friends. I was like, but it was a good thing. She was very happy, and I'm very happy to see Commissioner Free tomorrow, because we have, I understand we have a limited time stop on that, but
yeah. So, actually, before I totally forget, if I may, I'd like to give the website for our local caucus, of course, which is for your viewers,
Yes.
which is Hillsborough, which is for those who don't know how to spell Hillsborough, it's HILLSBOROUGH, and then so Hillsborough LGBTQ Dems, as D as in Delta, EMS.org, and our communications chair, Paul Enlow, has done a phenomenal job with updating the website. Yep,
Is that it?
that's it. Yep.
All right.
And well, except for .org, not .org. I think I put
I'm so tired. I was like, what the hell am I?
That's all right. That's right. I'm like, is that a comma? Yeah.
That's appeared, ladies and gents.
But yeah, people can visit. Of course, they can sign up for our Zooms. Hopefully, we'll be meeting in person at some point in the near future. I'd like that because I think most of us are probably zoomed out by now, so to say.
I'll just stay virtual because I'm not getting drunk.
And of course, we have a bowl-a-thon fundraiser in January 16th of next year, so they can check all that out on the website.
Yeah. Ken told me about that yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, Ken, when's our next fundraiser?" He goes, "The 16th." I go, if I'm not mistaken, he serves as what, the treasurer?
He is the treasurer, yes.
So, what are the qualifications in order to? Isn't a committee elected position to run for president and BP?
Okay, so the officers are elected positions. President, vice president. Sally, our vice president. Laura Jane, our secretary, and Ken, our treasurer. Those are elected positions. The committee chairs, like Ursulia, is membership. Paul is communications. Peter is legislative. Those are appointed positions, which I appoint them with the consent of the board.
That's how I'm an associate member.
Yeah. So the reason you're associate is, of course, you aren't. You have to be 18 to at least be a full voting member. So, which you'll get there.
Yeah, I will.
By the time I'm ready to leave my position, because I'm termed out. Actually, I'm on our bylaws say that you can that a president you can run for 4 consecutive 2-year terms as an officer, and so my last term as president ends, I think, in March of 2023, which is about the time I think you probably turn 18, right?
Well, I'll be 17. Well, I was born in November, so right around 17, 18, yeah.
So you'll be 17 this November?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll be 18 next November. Okay, so actually next November what? What's your birthday? November 3rd? Let's see.
First.
November 1st. Oh yeah, you'll definitely be if you turn 18 on November 1st of 2022, like I said, you registered, I think you said, next November will be your first election that you can ever vote in.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'm ready.
I'm sure you are.
Let me tell you something. Okay. When I never told you this, but my actual first ever position where I was allowed to serve in was actually working for, when he was first elected, I was pissed, but I had to, accomplish my goal. I was actually, believe it or not, I was actually a page for Senator Rick Scott, and oh my God, that man is annoying.
Especially, I think I just shuddered a little bit. Yeah, my skin just crawled a little bit.
But literally, just hearing his name makes me just want to vomit.
But, I do have the nickname I call him, but it's not professional. So I will
not talk about that.
I won't give what I call him, but suffice it to say, I'll say it this way. My nickname for him, actually, a lot of people's nickname for him and the Democratic Party is put the letter P in front of his first name.
A prick?
Yes. Yeah, that's Scott. Yes.
I'm sorry, Rick, but
so I'm like, okay, you can say it. I can't. But yeah, he'll be up in 2024, and hopefully, our bench, hopefully, someone will be ready to run. I mean, he's not a young man. He is not a young man whatsoever. I think. How old is he?
Yeah.
Let's see, Rick Scott.
Right. I had to take my earbuds off. They're killing the hell out of my ears.
He's almost 70, so he's not a young man. So,
Yeah.
but we just need to
Hope
we
for the
need some
best.
victories. We need some Democratic Party victories in Florida to start getting the bench built up better, to get get some legislative seats back. Start being able to turn this around because if anyone doesn't like something that's going on in the state of Florida, it's purely the Republicans' fault because with the exception of Commissioner Freed, our Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, everyone else in leadership in the state of Florida is a Republican. So they're the ones to blame for we had huge spike in COVID, and the Delta variant. COVID was awful here in Florida, and it's the Republicans' fault.
Right. Yeah.
So, or
If I'm not, did you ever go to FSU with Michelle?
Michelle Rayner? No, I don't believe so. I think she's like, I will say I didn't graduate. I actually left Tallahassee in 1998, and she is 2 years younger than me. So she would have, as I was leaving, she was going to Tallahassee. But I do like
She's
the
a
fact.
damn good politician, and I respect her, and I love her wife Bianca. If you've ever met Bianca,
Briefly.
she I actually remember meeting her at Rosac, Raymond O. Shelton building for administrative affairs. Oh, I don't know. I'm so freaking tired. But when I remember meeting her, I remember saying to her, I go, Bianca, I hate to say it, but people call me a vindictive sea monkey when I get into a really bad attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say I am very vindictive when I get people, like I said yesterday when I received homophobic comments, I did not stay silent. I basically ran, and yesterday was club day and also the elections, and I was actually sworn in today. And one of the first things I said to the council for GSA approval in elections was we need to come up with a resolution to prevent homophobic slurs within GSA.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have both a young Democrats and a young Republicans club, and I just remember, and basically the setup, it's basically like the Florida House. One side is Republican, the other side is Democrat, and it's a mixture of both. And I just remember telling my mother, I was like, Mom, they don't like me. What the hell am I going to do? And she goes, Alex, the best advice I could give you is, is try to quote Reagan, the saying, put up or shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying that to, the young Republicans, and they were like, I thought he was a Democrat. Well, newsflash, I could be, and I grew up in a very political home. Okay, my 9 times great grandfather was a signer of the Declaration and also a first time governor of Tennessee. And we also have Senator Roy Blunt, who is currently, I believe, is a senator for. Hang on, let me look real quick. Missouri, I think, is his name. Yep, and he is. I think he's a Republican.
Oh yeah.
And most of my family is Republican. But for our family here in this household here in Tampa Bay, we're Democrat, and it offends most people. It offends most of my family, especially if you've ever been to Melbourne, Florida.
Yes,
that is a very, very red.
It is very blood red. Yes.
And I actually remember calling. I remember speaking with one of my friends who actually grew up in Melbourne. He, he had to leave his home because he, believe it or not, before he even came to Tampa, he actually came here in Tampa right in time prior to the inauguration. He came here on January 18th of this year, and he came up to me, and I've never seen a person so sad. He goes, They're trying to burn my home because my family supports Biden.
Oh my, yeah. I
I can't
actually,
imagine having my, effing home, being threatened by GOPers.
yeah. I'm friends with. I'm not sure you probably don't know her, Stacey Patel.
I know
Um,
who you're talking about.
okay, yeah, Stacey and Sanjay, nicest people in the world. She actually, I'm not sure if she still is, but she at least was the chair of the DEC there, and yeah, they've gotten threats themselves, and it's just,
I know, and
it's disgusting.
it is disgusting. And when I heard, if you remember when Anna Escamani was, telling her family, how her father was a engineer on Florida Space Coast, while working as a customer service representative at Disney World, and she was basically talking about Florida unemployment. And I could relate. My father lost his job, as a construction worker and as a bricklayer because of the pandemic. And reason for that being is because the company had so many quarantines a week that they would not get their jobs done, and then he would get blamed for it. So what did he have to do? We had to make the decision to go bankrupt, and that was
Oh,
the hardest decision we've
yeah.
ever did. But I'm very grateful that President Biden is doing his job rightfully. But yet we cannot have somebody sit there from, let's say, a person who's not even in the White House and basically make comments and say that, oh, he's not doing his job. And that and yet I've seen people blame President Biden for the impeachment and resignation of Governor Andrew Cuomo. That don't make, that doesn't make any sense in my opinion.
It doesn't. He did not. You know, President
Instigate
Biden
anything.
is very honorable. He's a very honorable man. He's a very honest, decent man. Um, thankfully, the polar opposite of his predecessor, who shall remain nameless. Um,
Please. Let
but
it name.
Governor Cuomo, I mean, policy wise, he was good.
You
There's no,
was good.
he was good. Um, but you know, I mean, what he did, and it was pretty very well documented. What he did is not
Exactly.
acceptable. 20 years ago, he probably gets away with it. Um, Unfortunately, he would have gotten away with it 20 years ago, but not now. And I, Kathy Hochul, I'm not sure. I haven't been following her career, Governor Hochul, but first woman governor of New York. Maybe maybe one of these days we get to that point here in Florida.
And as a matter of fact, if you remember when the George Floyd protest happened, I will never forgive Donald Trump for what he said. I actually have a screenshot of one of his tweets. It says, "These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I will not let that happen." And he thinks that he's going to get away with calling, the African American community thugs is both racial and, very racist, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, he was completely totally racist.
Is that
He
why he's orange?
was that
Is that why he's orange? It's because he looks like an Oompa Loompa?
no. Well, forget my language. He's just an asshole. But
I curse all the time, so I completely
yeah,
accept you
but
for
yeah,
that.
he was known for having racist policies back in the 70s.
Absolutely, because he
His
refused to hire anybody
I
that was,
want to say it was
African American to work
his
with
grand
Trump Tower.
his grandfather actually was at least maybe not a member of, but participated with Ku Klux Klan things. And that was Trump's grandfather. So the apple doesn't
And
fall
so
far.
with if you remember Senator Robert Byrd,
He renounced his. I mean, yes, he had a past. He renounced it though. That's one thing. He did renounce the KKK and his racist past, which was good. He evolved, and that's one thing where I think that we miss with a lot of elected officials. We hold them regardless of what they say now. We hold them if their position has changed.
uh,
We hold them and we say, oh, but you supported this X number of years ago.
yep,
You can't be the good person. Okay, but how are they now?
yep,
And I think if we don't, especially with Democratic Party is like herding cats. If and So,
Right.
and I think we need to be better about accepting and embracing political evolutions. Everyone has to grow in
Right.
their views.
And Dave, what also very upsets me is that gosh, I can't even think the damn word I'm looking for. But I have witnessed. Um, I actually, believe it or not, actually, this is a true story. I actually went with my father to a business trip, and he had to go to Harrisonville, Arkansas, for a conference. And my dad is, he is Mexican because he was actually born and raised in Mexico. And what really pissed me off when I was over there is the amount of pure racism that is in Harrisonville,
Oh, yeah.
because
Mhm.
it is home to, I don't want to say it, because I don't want to lose listeners for saying it, but they are big supporters of, like how we were talking about, Trump's grandfather. And they basically they use very, very racial slurs. They actually told my dad, get that burrito out of here or he's gonna be dead.
Oh, good lord.
It really made me feel unsafe, and I just remember crying all the way from, and we had to drive too. But when we got to our car, our back windows have been smashed with bricks,
Hmm.
and our entire car had flat tires. And I basically had to go into an advanced auto store and had my dad go to the hotel room because I don't want to risk my dad's life
Yeah.
with some asshole trying to kill my dad because he's Mexican. It's wrong, and it pisses me the I
F
almost
off. Yeah. So
yeah
I.
the fuck off because it's wrong. You
Yeah.
know,
So I hate to cut it short, but I do need to actually get going here. So
I yeah.
yeah.
So
So
well, thank you again, Dave, for
oh,
tuning in. We
thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the caucus virtual meeting with Commissioner Freed.
Absolutely. Have a
Have a
great
good
one,
night.
Dave.
You do. Thank you.
All right, bye bye. So everyone, that was Dave Cutler. He is the president of the Hillsborough County LGBTQ plus caucus. I do apologize if we had to discuss some very personal things, but we had to make sure that we get the fucking job done. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I'm your host Alexander Rivera, and have a great night. Peace and be safe.